Welcome to Romage, a podcast about books, people, and life. I'm your host, Amaya Dharmasiri. Would you like a new perspective on how to live the life you always dreamt of? Self-help materials now come in many forms, and they promise to guide you to be a better version of yourself. But then again, why do so many people hate self-help? We have Chathumi Thumbovila here today to talk about the international bestseller, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Today, as my very first guest, I have one of my best friends from university, Chathumi Thumbovila. Hi, Chathumi.
Hi, Amaya.
Hi. So, Chathumi, I met her in the university. I think on the very first day I met her actually. And now she is the Vice President Education of our University Gavel Club, through which I got to work with her very closely. She is one of my best friends, and I am really thrilled to have you here for my very first podcast.
Yes. So I also met Amaya in the same way on the very first day of uni. I'm really glad I get to work with you at Gavel Club and now here, and I'm so proud to be one of the first guests at your podcast, and I hope this podcast goes places and I become famous someday.
Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay, so what we're basically going to do today is we're going to talk about a book that Chathumi recommended me to read. It's one of her favorites. So this book is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. It is an international bestseller. So according to the book cover, 3 million copies have been sold worldwide.
Yeah, so this book is written by Sharma. So he's actually known to be one of these, some sort of a life coach. I hope that's that's a very famous term right now everywhere, and he does life coaching sessions for people all around the world. So when it comes to the book, it is about a lawyer named Julian Mantle who, just like in the title, sells his Ferrari and goes on to India to become a monk. So that's basically what the book is about. Although at first sight it seems like the book is going to be something where the monk who sold his Ferrari is going to be relating his story. It is more like a conversation between the monk and one of his best friends who's still a lawyer. And in their conversation, a lot of things that this person who left his layman life to become a monk relates regarding his experience is brought out. So I think that's what the book is basically about.
Yeah, so basically he sells his Ferrari and all of his material belongings, and then goes in search of a higher wisdom to India. So yes. That's basically where everybody goes in search of wisdom.
Yeah.
So he comes back and relates the story. So, Chathumi, can you tell me a little bit about how you came across this book? As in, where did you get the recommendation, or how did you, what is the background of you reading the book?
Yeah, so first, I got to know about this book when I was doing Stigma, where one of the lecturers told that there is this book named The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, which was written by Sharma. And all of you should read it. That's what he said. Along with some other recommendations of books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, etc. That actually gives us...
Yeah, that's a very good book.
Yeah, that gives us...
I have read it.
Yes, I only got into reading only half of Rich Dad and Poor Dad. And I actually never read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari at the time, which was about 3 years ago. And then last year I was actually going through this crisis where I was really worried about what I was going to do with my life, because although I'm doing an engineering degree, I'm not sure if that's where my real passion lies. And I was having this whole crisis, something like people call midlife crisis, but I was having it at 22. And I was wondering what I really wanted to do with life, the purpose of life, etc. And I was feeling sort of helpless, and I didn't feel like there were a lot of people I could actually get help from. So I turned to Google, and I went to watching TED Talks, etc. about these things. And I also felt like I was a very avid reader when I was small, but I had stopped reading books as well.
Exactly. That happens to me as well.
Yeah, that's like a really bad feeling when you actually realize it. It hits you.
Yeah.
It hits you at one moment that you had stopped reading books, and you feel really bad about it. So I thought that...
I know. So that was the very reason why I wanted to start this podcast as well, so that I can actually get to read more books.
So it's the same thing. So I also wanted to start reading more books. So I started looking for books to read, and I was also a person who only read fiction, like specifically, and then
same here, yeah.
And then I decided that I was going to change my mindset from that and actually start reading books about life, the meaning of life, the purpose of life. I mean, it's somebody, whether the person is saying the truth or not, it's going to be somebody else's perspective. It's always good to know that. So that's how I actually came across this book again, and then I actually read it in the beginning of this year, and it has actually given me a better and a much broader perspective about life.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, when Chathumi recommended me the book, I haven't myself haven't read a lot of self-help sort of books. I, just like Chathumi, I was very almost addicted to fiction. So when I came to university only, I got exposed to this world of non-fictions. So since then I read several non-fictions that I really loved. Even though now this book is somewhere in between a fiction and a non-fiction, I'm not sure. When Chathumi recommended me the book, I actually read it from cover to cover, which I don't usually do with a lot of non-fiction books. When I usually read a non-fiction book, I read the chapter lists, the contents, and read somewhere in the beginning of the chapter and end of the chapter, try to figure out what the author is trying to bring about. But with this book had some kind of a narration.
Yeah.
So I read it cover to cover, and I actually enjoyed it. Just like Chathumi, I really enjoyed it. So in this book, the author suggests 7 lessons through which he suggests that a reader can improve his or her life. So these 7 lessons come along with many other techniques and practices that you can practically incorporate into your life and practice every day to make your life better, to get your mind all in place, and to develop basically yourself spiritually, physically, and mentally. So Chathumi, was there anything specifically that connected with you, a lesson out of these 7?
So I feel like all these 7 lessons are like basic principles anybody can use to improve their lives. And I also feel like he has only put these 7 lessons into the only reason that this person, the writer, has classified them into 7 lessons is for someone who actually is looking for a specific method to improve his life can use them. But basically throughout the story, he actually mentions a lot of basic practices that a person can incorporate into their life to make their lives more wholesome and more better. So for me, I think I'm not the kind of person that is very structured with my learning. So for me, in my head, it's not just 7 lessons. It's bits and pieces of the stories that he mentions, and bits and pieces of the practices that he mentions that I have in my head. it comes to improving mindfulness, which is, I think, the first one, master your mind.
Yes.
And I think all of them is just inside my head as simple practices. So it's not specifically 7 lessons for me. They are just
I think it's for the sake of simplicity and
for somebody,
for the readers to remember the story. I think
that's why they have put it. But I don't really relate to that method. Even like at the end of each chapter, you may have seen that they have given a
they have given a summary.
Summary. So I don't relate to the summary. So when I read it, I'm like I'm lost. So for me, it's the story and the image that it creates in my head that stays inside me. So I think this.
So what was it? What was the thing that connected with you the most?
I think it's about the mindfulness and mastering your mind. Because I am a Buddhist, and I actually believe in the philosophy of Buddhism, and it also talks a lot about how mastering your mind is going to be what really gives you real contentment and real happiness. So I believe in it, and I have always wanted to try it out, but I always thought, because in Sri Lanka, I mean, not to criticize, but most of the time, people, when they're like really old, only they go into this, dive into all the Buddhist practices, etc. So I always felt like when I was young, so we are all still very young, so I think we're allowed to make mistakes. So I thought
we don't need this in our lives right now.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I had time, etc. But this book made me connect with my mind and actually try to practice mindfulness and try to improve my connection with my mind, etc. So that, I think, was one really good thing that happened to me by reading this book.
The lesson that Chathumi elaborated was master your mind, which is the first lesson according to the structure of the book, which actually comes with several techniques that the author suggests a reader should try out in order to actually master their minds. I actually liked this specific practice that he brought out. It's called the Heart of Rose, where he suggests that we take a rose, a flower, and we go to a place that is very silent and calm, and we look at the flower. We just look at the flower and don't think about anything else but the flower. So it sounds very easy to do, but when you actually try to do it, it's not very easy. I mean, thousands of thoughts just come and go. You have to forget everything else and just think about the rose, how beautiful it is, the colors and the leaves and everything. So actually, Chathumi, now you said this was your favorite lesson. So did you actually get the chance to practice this Heart of Rose or the opposition thinking or this set of techniques that the author suggests? Did you actually try them out?
So I think for me, the Heart of Rose is basically meditation. It's whether you are looking at a rose per se, or if you're just closing your eyes and focusing on your breathing, I think it brings about the same effect. But here the writer has written the book in a way that it appeals to everybody. So if you tell somebody who has never been in touch with meditation or never been in touch with yoga or something similar about the spiritual context of living, if you tell this to someone who like this, someone who has never been in touch with their spiritual context, then they are not going to start doing it all of a sudden just because some book tells it.
Exactly.
So, but if you tell something, say it in a simple way like this, like take a rose, look at it. It doesn't sound so spiritual.
Hard, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very different or very disconnected from us. It doesn't sound like something that a monk would do. So I think that I think that is the technique that he has used in this Heart of Rose concept. So I have not exactly tried this Heart of Rose concept because I mean, you know, like even in our school days we are asked to practice meditation, we are like almost forced to do it, so we are very much in touch with it. So I have in place of this Heart of Rose, I have started taking meditation seriously and trying to do it as often as I can, and trying to improve myself in the practice of meditation. So that's what I have sort of replaced this with.
Yeah. Talking about my favorite lesson out of the 7 actually is my I mean all of these 7 lessons connected with me, but if I were to select one, I would go with the second one, which is follow your purpose.
Yes.
So now this purpose has been a kind of a big deal around these recent times. I don't know, I have come across it in several scenarios. This Robin Sharma suggests that if you know your purpose, if you work towards it, then like all the other forces in the universe will come together to make that work for you. Yes. So as a technique he has suggested, so this is also not something new, just like the Heart of Rose. So what he suggests is that we take few minutes of the day and actually take a piece of paper and write down what you actually want out of your life. Yes. I mean, you might have a general idea as to what you want to do with your life, but putting that into actual words, writing that down and looking at it every day, I think that has an effect.
Yeah, it does. Because actually there's this other concept. There's this other concept also, I don't know if you've heard something about vision boards and them actually coming true. A vision board is somewhere...
I'm not very familiar.
Yeah, so a vision board is something where actually there's this famous YouTuber named Lily Singh. She's the one actually who has promoted this. So in a vision board, what basically happens is you put... But I have heard about vision boards in other places also. Very much, a lot I have heard about it. It's a proper technique that people use to achieve their goals, where you actually put pictures of your vision or goal in a big board or poster and hang it somewhere where you can see every day. And Lily Singh claims that it has literally made her goals come true, that was basically the reason she's where she is today. Like, she actually had on her first vision board to become verified on Facebook, verified on Instagram, etc., and from there onwards to where she is today, have her own show, etc. She has always used them in vision boards and then ended up, making them come true. So I think it's
basically
same.
About clarifying what you need with your life, and then sort of reminding itself, reminding that to yourself every day.
Yeah, it's the same
kind of thing. Yes. So that was some of the lessons that Robin Sharma has suggested that we should take, and I think I would recommend the book to anybody. You can take some time reading. It's a very light read. Like, you don't have to put a lot of effort to understand the things. I mean, even if you're not a Buddhist, even if you haven't followed any sort of a spiritual guideline or spiritual kind of living so far, it's still accessible, it's still understandable to a layman. So I think that's a good read. On a separate note, now this is something I have seen about you, Chathumi, as a lot. You post a lot of optimistic and positive quotes, things about kindness and warmth, purpose in life, having friends, all of these very beautiful and warm and optimistic things on your Facebook and on your Instagram and wherever you publish things on. So I see you as a very optimistic person. From your angle, what do you think about the self-help material in general? It could be about spirituality improvement, or even your finance, even your productivity, sort of every kind of this self-help material have things in common. So what do you think about this self-help concept.
Yeah, so I feel like self-help has this really bad stigma attached to it. Where,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly the direction where I want to steer the conversation.
Yeah. So I don't think it is very right, because honestly, if we take anything, it could be a homosexuality, or it could be a person not wanting to do a job, or like anything, like literally anything. I mean, there is always two sides to it. There's going to be a set of people who believe it and a set of people who don't believe it. So criticizing it per se, criticizing anything per se, just because you believe it's not right, is, I don't think, is the right thing to do, because there is going to be a set of people who are going to be believing in it as well. And it's the same with self-help books. This book by Robin Sharma or any other book, they are just giving us techniques for better living. It's not...
Yeah, so from the way... Yeah, exactly. From the way I see it, these... these self-help materials are more or less a perspective of a third person.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's the same
you
way
can
I
always... there is always a benefit of listening to another perspective. The way someone else looks at the world, someone else looks at, the things around him.
Yeah.
So... exactly. That's one of the things that I really like about self-help.
It's just a matter of you reading it, and if you want, you can do it. If not, you can steer away from it. There is a certain amount of stigma about people actually just pretending to tell that they are actually really good at this whole steering people's lives towards success and etc. But I think that basically has to do also with the general audience's fake kind of drive towards success. Like sometimes people are only focused on getting money, or like getting a certain illusion sort of a success that they have in their minds. So in that case, if they want to do anything and everything to get where they want to go to, they might fall for certain people that are like, pretending to be self-help gurus, etc. But either way, even if people go to somebody who's pretending to be a self-help guru and actually get something out of it, well, I think that's okay. Because as long as it's good for that person.
When you suggested me the book, and when I read the background about this, self-help material in general, so just like you said, there was a lot of stigma attached to it. One claim is that these methods or these lessons or the things that the authors encourage you to do to make your lives better might not have proper basis or might not have backing evidence. So this is actually a concern I had about this book. Now, Julian Mantel travels to Himalaya. He meets a set of sages who spend a very spiritual life. So this is a fable. Now, this is not actually how the author came, how the author got to know about all these techniques. I mean, he got to know about it in some other way. He learned it from somewhere. He learned it from experience or from other people. But adding this fable, adding this journey, this fictional journey of Julian Mantel, isn't that a way of adding some fake credibility to what the author is suggesting? Don't you think?
So, so here's the thing. So when I first started reading this book also, the first thing I did was I went to Google and searched about Robin Sharma's background. Like, did he actually leave his Ferrari to go and do this? But no, what I found was also that he was just a lawyer who stopped his job to stay at home and write this book. And that's how he started his career of like writing books, etc. So someone might say, so we don't know where actually he got these. I don't know personally. I don't know. Maybe there are people who know, but I personally don't know where he got these lessons from or all of these things. But so I have a certain background from which I actually can gain that some of these lessons are true lessons. Specifically, these about even about these sages in Sivana or this Himalaya that he's speaking about. I personally know someone who know a lot of people actually who I've met. So when I was volunteering in Poland, there were a few people that I met who actually gave up their jobs to go and either travel around the world or volunteer in certain places. Yeah, I actually met. I have met people like that who were actually born in like either Netherlands or somewhere and have just dropped everything, their jobs, everything, and just gathered up all of their savings and gone around the world. There was this one lady who stopped in Africa to volunteer for about 3 months and then ended up going to India. And in India was where she still dresses in these Indian clothing sometimes. And she's vegan now. I'm pretty sure she was not vegan before. So all of that. So I have seen that in people, and I also know this other lady whose husband passed away. And to deal with the grief, she decided to go to India and take up yoga classes, etc. And she's dealing with it really well. Like, I have never seen someone who has dealt with such a lot of grief in the way that she does with her daughter. So I think there is some credibility to the yoga, to the fact that yoga actually helps your life. And here Julian Mantle or Robin Sharma is talking about one extreme of it, but I have experienced the lower version of it. So I have a sort of an evidence to believe that there may be, I'm not sure, of course, I don't know, but there could be an extreme version of it too. So I have.
So just like you said, about your lesson, the mindfulness lesson, where the author suggests that we look at a rose and stay in silent contemplation. So it's more or less what we learn about as meditation in Buddhism.
Yeah.
So maybe just like Chathumi did, just like I did, if someone can read a self-help book but also be conscious about its credibility, do some research about the author, do some research about the techniques that he or she suggests, then maybe actually now, without falling into a trap of fake facts or made up theories and everything, like it's I think it's up to the reader. I mean, whatever in Buddhism they say, like, you shouldn't
accept anything,
believe anybody says without being conscious about what they say.
So I think it applies to everything. Not just self-help.
Exactly.
For anything that you find on social media, or it just boils down to this really small fact about you being conscious about the things you read, about the things you take in,
things basically you believe in, you decide to believe in.
Yes.
You heard about the importance of mindfulness and constant self-improvement. Coming up after the break, how to find your motivation without being a victim of this $1 million self-help industry. Just a small heads up to our listeners, both Chathumi and myself are recording this podcast at our homes, not in, sophisticated studios. So there could be a little bit of background noises. I have squirrels, I have birds.
I have my kitten shouting here sometimes. And also we should mention that we are recording this during the global pandemic of COVID-19, so we are in two different places and have no way to be together and record this, so yes. Yeah, so just please don't mind the small background noises you might hear. Yes.
So there was another concern. That is, in order to, read a self-help book or listen to a guru, as they say, you have to admit that you are in a bad place. You have to admit that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way you spend life. This, you have to admit that something is wrong to pursue something better. That's what these people claim. So admitting that there is something fundamentally wrong about the way you look at the world, the way you spend your life, that could be harmful. That's what they claim. What do you think?
So this also boils down to this very simple fact where I think it is really, really okay to once in a while to understand that you're wrong if you're actually wrong about something. See, I think no matter what it is about, even when you're learning something, there could be like different aspects to it. It could be just something really, really sciencey. It could be, I don't know, you may agree with me. It could be something mathematical. There could be 2 ways to solve one mathematical problem, right? And one of these methods will not give you the right answer. But if you keep believing that this is the way to do it and I'm just going to do it this way, you will never get the right answer. So unless you actually, unless you have the kind of mindset where you can accept that you may be wrong, you cannot really find the right answer. So I'm not saying there is just one right answer to life or one right end to life or one right way to live life. I'm pretty sure there's a lot, because even the same person who reads this book, so it's something that I read somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where I read it, but when we read a book, the way we take it in is different. The book almost has nothing to do with it. Even if it's a fiction or non-fiction, the way each person takes what a book says is very different.
Now, say you have a very bad day. Now, by the end of it, you are quite fed up of everything that you have been through that day. You're feeling very down. Now, have you experienced this where you get a thought as to, I shouldn't be feeling sad. No, feeling sad is bad for me. I should somehow cheer up myself. Is that something you feel? As in, now, what these people claim is that is sort of invalidating your own feelings.
Yeah, so
it's okay to have a shitty day once in a while.
Yeah,
it's okay to feel sad.
I'm not sure if it's in this book, but I also believe in the fact that people should accept their feelings.
So it is okay to not feel okay. I mean, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to feel sad about something. But if you can make it better, then you can. It doesn't mean that just because you're feeling bad, just because you are feeling sad, it does not make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you any less of a human. It's just the way life is. So self-help might help you if you are looking for a new perspective, if you are looking for a new way to, help your life.
Yeah, even so, this, I don't think concern. Like self-help removes all, even if you do every single thing that's told in this book, I really don't think it's going to remove all woes or remove all like bad feelings from your life. I mean, it's a part of life feeling bad, right? Once in a while.
Yeah, exactly where I wanted to go next, Chathumi. Now, what these people claim is that even if you read a whole set of self-help books, it might not change a lot, as in... like people get some sort of a rush when they read these self-help books, like even though they are not practically doing anything to make their lives better, but just reading itself gives them such a rush, gives them a fake feeling that they're actually doing something to make their lives better. So this element of binge reading these books, binge reading self-help material could be addictive, could have an element of addiction where you're not actually doing anything to make you better, but you're just reading about it. So I have a confession to make. Now I said that my favorite lesson is finding your purpose. So the author suggests that I should take a piece of paper and write it down. Now I thought that it's a very good idea, but I actually didn't do it. I mean, I didn't. I don't know why. I should. So I think this is something a lot of people can relate. I mean, you read it.
Yeah, but you don't do anything in it.
You don't do everything.
Yeah. So I think the part about addiction actually boils down to anything. Anything in too much of a concentration is bad for you. Even like, you know, right, even water, if you drink it too much, your blood concentration is going to go down, and like, you know, you'll probably die. So that's how it is. Like, so for me, so the best way I can relate to it is also through Buddhism, where it's preached that everything should be in moderation. So
Exactly.
you shouldn't go to any extreme, even with self-help books, any books. So now that I am actually trying to read more non-fiction books, I still mix up a fiction book somewhere to the middle of it. And I also don't try to read to be too engrossed in this book. So this Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, I started reading it at the beginning of this year, and actually it took me about 2 or 3 months to finish reading it, because I also read other books from here and there, and like I first take whatever lesson that is told about it and try to sort of absorb it and see if it is going to work out for me, if it's going to help me or not. So in this
so
way,
basically you should be conscious about
it just boils down to that fact that you should be conscious, and that you should take everything in moderation, whatever it is, even food. I mean, it applies to anything. You should we are all human beings with like properly working brains, and we have the ability to think, we have the ability to weigh in the odds and the good points about anything that is given to us, and then make a decision about what is best for us. So it depends on each person, but I think the basic idea is to have everything in moderation, and to do it like properly. Like, there is no point of reading a billion self-help books if you're not going to use any of it. It's the same with doing a course, we try these online courses, and sometimes at first I started an online course, and I actually downloaded all these videos thinking someday maybe I will actually go through these and learn it. But the only proper courses that I do, only proper learning I do, is when I actually apply whatever it is that I'm learning. So if I'm not applying what I'm learning simultaneously with the learning, then actually there is no point of what you're doing. So in these books also, it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter how many books you read if you don't apply something and just try it out. I mean, sometimes maybe these lessons won't work for you, or won't work for someone. So there are some lessons
it's just some person's perspective. Yes, it's not guaranteed to work.
Yeah, some of these things actually maybe don't work for me also. Like, I don't know. So it's just different, and you can't expect all 7 lessons to be embedded into your life like within a matter of few weeks or something. It's just, that's not how life works. I think we all are like experienced enough to understand that life is like more or less messy, and it's not a very structured thing, right? So no matter how much we try, I really don't think we can have a proper structure and do everything in like according to a plan. I mean, just imagine, even if you made a plan, there is for the whole day, there is a possibility that it won't work out that way, and some of those things you can't control. So coming back to what you said about all this reading a lot of self-help books without applying anything, so it's definitely not going to work out for you. So I think anything you take, be it music, so I think it's a huge problem currently in the society. Just because someone is doing it, you're doing everything. And so that's how I started online courses at first, because everyone was doing it, so I wanted to try it out, and it didn't work out for me doing it because I was not applying what I was learning. I think it's the same thing.
So bottom line is you should be conscious about what you select to follow, what you select to believe in. So like just because you are getting addicted to self-help material, it doesn't imply that you are doing good. So once in a while you should reflect upon what you have done, whether you have made the progress. So I think Chathumi has a I mean, I just read this book on your recommendation. I read it in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
But if I had done what you suggested, if I had taken some more time to absorb each and every one of these lessons, to actually think for myself whether they will work for me or not, I think it would help a lot of people than just the way I followed.
And you can actually have a conversation about. So it's not about this book. There was this other book I read about communication with people, and the same lesson, the way I took it and the way that my friend who read it took it were two different ways, and I was so blown away about how he could have taken it in such a different way. But that is how it is, I think. I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can always benefit from a second perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. So, going back to the stigma attached to self-help, now, when I did some research, what I found out about this biggest stigma attached to self-help, it is not actually specifically for self-help materials in general, but to the self-help industry. Now, this book has sold 3 million copies worldwide, so that should be a lot of money. So, the stigma attached to it is around these gurus making a lot of money by selling this addictive content, according to them.
Yeah, so I think it boils down to also being confident about your own self and trusting your own decisions. So I think the only way that the industry specifically can force you to keep watching self-help videos or whatever is by telling you that unless you buy the whole course, it won't do any good to you. Like, you have to watch every episode of this self-help coaching in order to get something out of it to your life. So that's just what the industry says. It doesn't mean you have to believe it. So you have to be confident enough to take it into you and actually analyze it and understand that if these self-help books or whatever is helpful, then I should be able to get some simple thing out of it, at least from one of the episodes, or like some episode in the middle or whatever. I've actually come across this kind of thing. It's more or less like those other websites or whatever it is that you go to, where you register and they ask you for credit card information if you want to have a free trial, right? So I think it's the same, basically more or less the same thing. And there are others where I think even Instagram profiles. So as you said, I am someone who actually looks for positivity quotes, etc. So I've come across these Instagram profiles, etc., where you go to these and they say, click the link in bio to know what exactly you should do to achieve this particular thing. And then when you go to that, they're like, subscribe and do this if you want to know this particular thing to get this thing. And then, that itself, when you just look at it, you realize maybe if they cannot give me something useful in the first few seconds, I really doubt even if I subscribe, I would get something. And I think the fact that they say if you subscribe, you will get to know this particular thing is like a red alarm for me. So I think if people have...
I mean, I'm really reluctant to give my credit card information to any of these platforms.
Yeah, I don't even give email addresses to these things.
I mean, some of these scams are really dumb. I mean, I'm really...
So...
I'm really...
But if you're not informed...
surprised that people actually get trapped in this.
Yeah, but you're not informed, it is actually... possible that you get into this kind of thing. That is why you should try to find more knowledge, try to be more informed. I think it applies to anything, whatever it is, whatever field it is, whether it is news or it's some sort of a news or some sort of an issue. The more you are informed about it, only the more you can make a conscious decision. So it's about being informed. I'm pretty sure just one Google search about self-help books will give you self-help books or self-help coaching will give you plenty of ways to identify if someone is doing something fake or something like that. And I'm pretty sure you can also find reliable resources to get this kind of information from. So I know it's a lot of information available right now in the world, but there are also methods to filter them. Every dark cloud has a silver lining, so I'm sure these dark clouds also have silver linings. It's just a matter of you understanding yourself and believing in yourself and trusting yourself to make the right decision, instead of just blindly following anything. It could be anything. It just doesn't just apply to self-help only. I think it applies to everything.
So yes, bottom line, be conscious about what you select to believe in. Be conscious about your feelings, just without blindly following some of the techniques suggested by these gurus. So if you do that, you can actually get a lot of things out of this self-help material from monk who sold his Ferrari as well. So I think just like Chathumi did, just like I did, you might find stuff that's interesting in this book. So I would recommend you to read Monk Who Sold His Ferrari if you're looking for a little bit of inspiration, looking for a little bit of, ways to improve your general life, your dreams, following your dreams and being mindful about improving your discipline and everything.
I feel like it's more like getting a different perspective too. Like if you are looking for a different perspective about life, just go ahead and read the book. We are just two ordinary girls who happen to find a book and read it and get something out of it. And maybe you will be able to do the same too. We don't know.
Same, exactly. So good luck with your reading to all our listeners. And Chathumi, thank you very much for being here to help my first episode of my podcast.
It's my pleasure.
Just like you said, hope this go places.
Yes, it's my pleasure, and I am just really happy and proud that I got the chance to help you out like this. And it's not really helping, I'm getting a benefit out of it too, because it's a really new experience for me, so thank you very much.
That was Chathumi Thumbovila on positivity and self-help. There's a lot of great books out there and a lot of smart people. At Ramage, I have both. This is your host Amaya Dharmasiri. I'll meet you again with another episode.